Welcome everyone to this is session number 2 of Sacred Exchanges with Trees, and we're really thrilled that you're here. And for those who will be catching the replay, may this all come through really clear and purely for you also. This is the second in a series of 3 classes in this webinar series. The third and last one is next weekend. To start with, I just want to say that I'm humbly and gratefully located in the ancestral lands of the Catawba and Cherokee peoples of North Carolina. And I am also going to do a little blessing, which is what I always do whenever I do any events, whether in person or online. Oh, actually asking for the spirit teams for a blessing. Oh. I am that I am, humbly calling on all the spirit teams behind the great Mother Love Way, all the guardians, Mother Gaia, Creator, Mother's councils, and more, all those serving Mother's highest good for divine plan alignment. Please bless our session today. Hold us in sacred space with the highest, purest love. And also calling out to the overarching Mother Council of Trees of our great sacred earth, please hold us in sacred space. Welcome, beautiful ones. Oh. Okay. Yes. Hold on for a second, guys. Or is it not working? Hold on. Sorry, guys. We seem to have some static here. Um, please. Well, we're going to do the best we can. I just got a message that my internet connection's unstable, and we just switched it to hotspot. And oh no, yeah. Am I coming through clearly now? Can you guys all hear me rather clearly? Okay, thumbs up on that. Great, great, great. All right, good. Anyway, moving right along. Thank you for your patience with that. I also just want to put another huge gratitude out to everybody who donated to the Hurricane Fund. And as a result of this, you were gifted this webinar. We have raised over $5,000, which blows my mind. And the monies have been allocated to a number of different groups, search and rescue, groups working on the ground, making sure people have water and food and warm blankets and stuff. It's a whole combination of different groups. So once again, this is a lead-up event to the Thousand Goddesses Gathering and the Global Tree Grid, Global Tree Love Day, Saturday, November 2nd. I hope that all of you will join on some level. and do something either on your own or with a group, but outside with the trees. There are suggestions on that website. And please, please, please register so that we can put you on our map. It's already, I think, more than 150 so luminous love nodes, which is what I call them. All the people have registered. It's going to be a powerful unified field of human tree love. And the trees are already giving messages through various people to me of how much they're welcoming the wave of love that's already starting to come in. So without much more ado, I would like to introduce our wonderful teacher, speaker, guide today. We have Julie Charette Nunn, who's goes under the name Crow's Daughter with her work. Julie is a shamanic herbalist and a longtime teacher. You can find her under her apple tree, amongst her large thicket of wild roses, or in her wild garden, conversing with the plants. She teaches listening as a way to gain access to the abundant wisdom in nature, and she offers apprenticeships, shamanic mentorships, and home study courses, as well as nourishing herbal products. And Julie was one of the first ones to post where she's based. She is on Whidbey Island in Washington State in Puget Sound. So a little housekeeping before I pass it over to Julie. Again, as in the last class, please save your questions to the end. And but Julie will be prompting you at certain points during this session for your feedback about some experiences she's going to be guiding us through. So but as far as questions go, we will be doing that at the end. So Julie, I'm passing this over to you now, and I'm just really, really thrilled that you are with us today. You have so much to offer, so thank you. So Julie, I think you're still muted. What's going on?
Okay, there we go. Oh, hi, everyone. Technology, huh? I'm so grateful to be here and grateful for the trees, grateful for you, Mayor, for putting this whole thing together and for doing the sacred exchanges with trees. I feel really humble and like a lot of heart energy towards sharing with you some of the experiences I've had with the trees and sharing with you some of the ways that you can do that. You may already be doing that. And I'm going to share my screen here. There we go. All right. Okay, so what I'd like to do today in this webinar is share a little bit about my practices, how I sort of gathered this connection with the trees that I have right now, and then a little bit about shamanic herbalism as it relates to the trees. And we're also going to do, I'm going to share some stories, some conversations, and some healing work with the trees, and offer you a tree meditation. And there's actually another meditation that I'm going to offer you too. And then I did some work last year with the banyan tree, connected with one of the trees on my land in Lahaina, Maui. And I want to share those stories because they're quite profound and beautiful, and I feel like they need to be shared. And then at the end, we're going to talk a little bit about how to help the trees. So I'm just going to put it on there. Oh, let's see. As long as I have my pictures here, this is a picture of a Douglas fir tree on our land, and I'll be telling you more about this tree. I call it the power animal tree. And this is a picture of a hawthorn tree in bloom at Magnuson Park in Seattle, Washington. And I've been connecting with this tree for about 20 years now. And it's my companion, my friend, my teacher. I gather medicine from her. And yeah, so, okay, let's leave it on that one. So I've always been connected with the plants. And as a school teacher for 20 years, I always taught, always had gardens with my students. As a really young child, there was a park in my neighborhood that had very large cedars, and my friend and I would play under them. So I have this connection with the very old trees from my childhood. Um, and I grew up on the Olympic Peninsula where there were a lot of old growth trees. And so I started studying shamanic herbalism as a school teacher, and I immediately discovered that this was my life path and I needed to quit my teaching job. And I had some pretty incredible experiences with actually with a hawthorn tree and with stinging nettle during that time. And I quit my job. I moved to out of the city. I was going through menopause and I was walking in the woods every day. And I discovered that I needed to do some healing work. I started doing some shamanic healing, and the teacher suggested that I do shamanic training with a foundation for shamanic studies. And so I did that course. And then after that, I had actually done an apprenticeship, a shamanic apprenticeship with a woman named Susan Weed in Woodstock, New York. And after that, my husband and I moved to a place in Southwest Washington for a short time, and then up to Arlington, Washington, and then subsequently to Whidbey Island. And oh, in that course and through my shamanic practice, I realized that I had a home base in shamanism. And I started journeying, and I decided I was going to do a little training with my student. I had two students. I was going to do a train. I was going to do a training. I had two students, and I did a journey to my spirit teacher, and I asked her about what I could do. And she says, I'm going to introduce you to another teacher. And so she introduced me to this shamanic herbalist spirit teacher, a very, very old shamanic herbalist from the British Isles. And she said to me, do this with your students. And she gave me some instructions. And I was like, oh, really? I'm really going to do that? She goes, yeah, give it a try. So I did it. And it was just amazing. I can't even remember the exact exercise I gave them, but their connection was so beautiful, and they connected with the trees and received messages from the trees. And so that was over 25 years ago. I have had this daily connection with this teacher since then, and she's informed my work since then. And at the beginning, she was really instructing me. And now, because I've been working with her for so long, she guides me because I learned so much from her, and I continue my apprenticeship with her. And so that's kind of like a beginning of where I began and how I sort of started stirring this pot of connecting with the trees, connecting with the plants, and a little bit about shamanic herbalism. So it's like the oldest way of healing on the planet. And I put some little notes here in the keynote here, because but you'll have a recording of it. You can go back to it and sort of remember from this. And this is a picture of one of my apple trees. I think it's a Jonah Gold tree in my garden. And so quite a bit of the experience in shamanic herbalism is in the invisible. And we do this practice very near where we live. It's so beautiful because you can receive wisdom right outside your door. And that's the most beautiful thing about it. And it's very simple as well. And we'll be doing a little exercise a little later on. So it's like we expand our consciousness with breath and intention. So we hear the voices of the plants. And we develop intimacy with the plants and the land around us when we do this. And what's happened as I practice this, and I've been teaching these practices for 25 years, what I've discovered is we all have developed deeper intimacy with ourselves. And that is just really, you know, such a wonderful, heartfelt thing. Especially, in this time where we're in this time of transformation that we're going through in our world, to really have this practice of connecting right where we live with these beautiful beings is quite amazing. So I want to tell you a couple of stories of the old growth. So I grew up in Aberdeen, Washington, which is on the coast in the Olympic Peninsula. And I was traveling. I took one of my relatives who was visiting from Finland to visit my mother, who was living down in Aberdeen. And my mom wanted to take us into the forest over to Lake Quinault to visit the forest. And so we went there. And as we were driving, all I could notice was there's all this clear cutting, clear cutting, clear cutting. And I was just devastated. I was trying to be friendly with my mother and my cousin, and I could not focus on that. And so I told the trees that I would come back. I would come back by myself and I would talk to them and I would find out what I could do to help them. So I did do that. About a month later, I returned to this spot, and if you drive around the kind of the backside of Lake Quinault, there's a dirt road, and it's just completely covered with old growth. And I came up. This is a Douglas fir tree, actually, in up in Stevens Pass at this incredible place on Stevens Pass. I like to call the land that time forgot. So that's where this tree is from. Um, so I came to this very old Douglas fir tree, very large, and I got out of my car and immediately I started crying. I just started bawling and I'm like, what? I don't know what to do. I'm so sorry. What can I do? How can I help? And the tree told me soon it will be time for the cutting of the trees to stop. The ones that cut the trees will not be the ones that stop it. And I just, was taken aback by this message. I just, stood and felt my connection with the tree. And what I got from that interaction was that it was the trees that are going to stop it. And I didn't know how I knew that, but that was the sense I got. And so I journeyed on during that time. This is the only picture I have that I didn't take. This is a hemlock forest because I didn't have a picture of the hemlock tree. But I went up a trail near where this Douglas fir tree was, and I found this very large old Western hemlock tree, and it was probably like 8 feet in diameter. And I leaned up against the trunk of the tree, and I was like, what am I going to do? I need your help. I want to help the trees. And this hemlock tree basically said to me, don't worry, be happy. It was such a joyful tree. And what it told me was it was my job to tell the stories of the trees. And I really felt like a sense of relief from this. And what I want to share with you about this is that, we have this empathetic feeling about what's going on our earth with the trees, with all of nature, and to really discover what is ours to do so that we don't feel like we have to do everything, because us as compassionate beings that are connected, that are beginning to wake up to what we can do to help our world, it's really wonderful to be able to find out what is ours to do? And when I talk about the tree meditation, I'll give you a little bit instruction so you can work with that yourself. And just as you're going along, what I want you to notice with the stories is like what you're feeling, like what's happening in your body, because it's like we can really the trees are really offering us this connection with ourselves. And so what are we actually feeling as we connect with the trees? Okay, so this is a picture of my apple tree that I'll tell you a little bit about later. And this is Winter, and she's just a wonderful companion for me. And this is where we have our classes outside. Okay, so when we're communicating directly with the trees, then we find this peace within ourselves. We find solace. And um, when we feel distraught or about the state of the earth, what's going on in our lives, there's wisdom available very near. And that's what I really appreciate about the trees. So, and there's this very simple way. This is a picture of the power animal tree on our land in the winter, last winter. It's a Douglas fir tree. Okay, so we are going to, I'm going to give you an exercise. And in the exercise, what we do is we breathe with the trees and we offer our breath to the trees. And the wisdom that we receive, it's like outside of our normal perception often. And so it's a way of expanding our consciousness with the help of the trees. I'm just going to kind of get my notes here. Okay. So what I'd like you to do, and oh, here we go. Oh, there's another picture of the apple tree last autumn, and I just love this tree because it was glowing, had little golden lights on it. So I put this in the chat, the whole exercise for communicating with the trees, and that way you'll have it if you want to go back to it. And we're going to do this remotely right now, but but this is something you can do. You go outside and find a tree that you're familiar with and do this directly with the tree as you stand before the tree. Okay, so what I'd like you to do is if you're willing, is to close your eyes and notice, just bring into your consciousness a tree that you're familiar with. It could be a tree where you live, could be a tree in a park or tree you visited somewhere nearby in a forest, just a tree that you're connected with in some way. And just breathe a couple of breaths naturally. Just breathe, kind of bring attention to your breath. And now imagine that you're putting your dominant hand on the trunk of this tree. Okay, and you're breathing. And now I want you to imagine that as you breathe in, you're breathing in the oxygen being put off by this tree. You're breathing it in. And then as you breathe out, you're giving your breath to the tree. And I want you to do that for 21 breaths. Okay? And after the 21 breaths breathing with the tree, I want you to ask the tree, who am I? And then listen. And listening is more than with your ears. You may hear something, see something, sense something, feel something. Just see what happens. Allow it. And then when this is complete, offer gratitude to the tree. And what you can do, okay, So let's just do this here. Let me just give you, I'm going to rattle a little bit. I don't know if you can hear this, but I'm just going to rattle a little as you do this. Okay, so um, if you feel moved now, what you can do is, what I'd like you to do, because I know that I'd love to hear what you receive from the tree. So I thought a way, because we have a number of people in our group, that if you would like, you could share a phrase or a sentence about what you received from the tree when you were breathing with the tree. Anyone feel moved to do that? And, keep connecting if you're feeling that way as well.
Julie, I would like to share.
Okay, could we, Annette, I'm wondering if we could just write a little phrase in the,
In the chat.
chat. That way we can, because we've got a lot of people. And then as we go to the end of the class in the Q&A, if people want to share more in depth, they can do that too. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Annette. Hey, beautiful. You give me strength. I give you strength in return. You are my beloved and the beloved of others who hear you and see your love. Nothing else exists. Our beloved sister and all trees I consider for this chimed in. How lovely. You are a divine child, lungs. We are one. We are, oh, you are a divine child, feeling with such peace within. You are my lungs, I am your lungs, we are one. I ask, who am I? I receive, you are a very old tree. Expansion of my heart. We are sisters. We are sisters, our sisters from my pear tree. Thank you for sharing us with the children. I have a juniper tree we call the wishing tree, and she loves the children that come to camp. Oh, that's beautiful. Yeah, yeah, I know we don't have a lot of time in these classes to do a connection with the trees. And, there's something, when you do it out on the land with a tree directly, then you can spend all the time you need. And it's really quite wonderful. So I'm going to move on, but Mary, you can let me know, maybe there'll be some other messages too that we can share later. Okay. Let me get to, okay, I'm gonna get over here. There we go. Okay. So, oh, what I wanted to do as I'm kind of thinking about, finishing up my meditation, I did want to share with you what I connect with my apple tree out in my yard, Miss Apple Tree, and the apple tree told me that you are kindred with earth and plants and humble servant of earth and goddess. And so that was really lovely for me. And I have a little prop here. This is a Gravenstein apple tree from my apple. Just started dropping apples, so we have to get out there and harvest. Before I talk about the apple tree, before I came to on Zoom, I sat outside on my porch, and on my porch I can see the trees. I've got a beech tree, a birch tree, got some pine trees. I have my espalier trees, espalier apple trees that are in the garden. And then if you go to the edge of the land, the Douglas fir trees. And there's a pine and a incense cedar tree there as well. And the trees really were very happy that I was going to be doing this class. And they were very supportive of me. I almost wanted to leave my door open so I could see the trees, because I can see it from my desk. And they told me it's okay. I like to, sort of have a little privacy when I'm doing it. They said it's okay. But this daily connection I have with the trees. And when I sit on my porch, it's like the trees are in a circle, and I feel like I'm in a circle of trees, like I'm sitting there and the trees are in the circle with me. And I did some healing work last year, and I was needing to rest quite a bit. And I would sit out there, and the trees were such solace for me. Just felt like they were helping me to heal. And I really appreciate that. So this is my apple tree. And the story of my apple tree is that when we first moved here over 20 years ago, I was like, hanging out with my apple tree, and the apple tree branch would always like pull my hat off, or I'd bump my head on the trunk of the tree, like this branch that's going out there. I'd bump my head, and I I'm like, what? And finally I realized the tree wants me to talk to it. And so I began my communication with this tree specifically. And the tree has taught me a lot about self-love. And when we sit under the tree for our classes, it's like it's kind of like Mother is holding the space for us there. And recently I've been doing some work with with one of my shamanic mentorship students, and knows this apple tree from being here on my land, but we do our work remotely now. And she loves to do shamanic work with this tree. So we do it every time. And what we discovered is that this tree is a portal to Avalon, to Glastonbury. And I was sharing this with my friend Luna, who's actually lives in Glastonbury with her husband Mark and children. And she told me that Avalon is called the Isle of Apples. So we're we're working on this idea of connecting our the like sort of expanding this connection between Avalon, between Glastonbury and my land. And that feels very powerful to me. And the thing that I love to share with people when I'm talking about this is, I mean, this is just so amazing, this having a connection with Avalon or having this profound wisdom with the trees. And it's just this simple connection that I forged that expanded into this amazing experience. Okay, so now I want to tell you about this power animal tree I have on my land. So this is a Douglas fir tree. It's the last tree in the row of Douglas fir trees. And there's actually a raven sitting in this tree. I don't know if you can see it. It's very small, sort of off there to the right. And I had about 20 years ago, I had an experience where I broke my ankle and I was laying on the couch for quite a while with my foot up. And I kept seeing this tree and I didn't really feel like, like doing anything. I didn't feel like reading or watching videos or anything like that. I just felt like I felt a lot of gratitude and I felt a lot of gratitude and connection with this tree. I kept looking at it. I kept seeing a polar bear in the tree. And finally I decided to do a journey because it just wouldn't leave me. And the my teacher told me, that's a power animal tree, and the tree's trying to give you a polar bear as a power animal. And I'm like, oh, okay. So what I did was I breathed in the polar bear into my being. And then I started working with this tree with my students and apprentices. And the tree told me about an exercise I can do and what the tree does is it gives people power animals. And I've done this probably for the last 10 years. And I've never had anyone not receive a power animal. And it could be like a power animal that you have. If you actually know of power animals, could be a connection with that power animal, or it could be a new power animal. And so I've done this in another class. I wanted to offer you this way of calling it a power animal with this tree. And I've done this remotely before. And people received power animals, and so we'll see. So I'm going to offer you this, and I'm going to, and and then we'll do some sharing. And if you, I'll talk about how you can share afterwards. And, it's okay. The way that the shamanic listening works is that um, we're just open to what we receive. And sometimes we receive messages and sometimes we don't. And you'll have this picture on the recording, and you could also go back to this picture and see if you can get anything else from it. So, and as I'm doing this, I can feel the power animal tree that's on my land. It's almost, I can feel like she's nodding her head, like, yeah, let's go, let's do it. So she is definitely here with us. So what I want you to do is look at this tree. Look at the photo, notice your breath, and start breathing naturally. What's the first animal that comes to your mind? You get a picture of an animal in your mind, and then what you do is you breathe it in for 7 breaths. Just breathe it into your being. And if you like, you can ask the power animal what they have for you. And then offer gratitude to the tree and the power animal. Okay. And I lost my, okay, I'd love for you to share in the chat if you received a power animal. I can also tell you a little bit about power animals, but I seem to have lost my function of getting onto the chat. Oops.
Julie, can you see it at the bottom where the chat box is?
Oh, there we go. Okay, it was just,
Great.
it was just, oh, how beautiful. Yeah, it just popped up again. So, okay, Karen is saying leopard in a tree, beautiful. Lovey owl, wings to fly. Wolf giving me strength. Mm. So what came to me was the raven, and raven has helped me with healing. And snake, beautiful. Cat purring calmly. Whale, beloved to me, always with me. Black bear, jaguar, raven. Hey, dove. Oh, how lovely. Mm. So what I've learned about is that the power animal is the guardian of our true nature. And Michael Harner, who's the founder of the Foundation for Shamanic Studies, he wrote about that the power animal can be a conduit for us or a portal for us, a companion for us, so that we can connect with a being that sort of represents the all for us in some way. And it's like can be less overwhelming than trying to connect with, the universe or, and all the energy of that. But to have that power animal who is your guardian, it can be really beautiful. And you can call upon the power animal to help you, to guide you, you can ask the power animal questions about, what shall I do here? I've had situations where one situation just popped in my head. I was having a conversation with my husband and it was a little bit heated and I didn't know what to say. And I called on one of my power animals. I said, tell me what to say. And the power animal started telling me what to say. And I said what the power animal said. And my husband was like, huh, okay. And it was like this, something happened, something shifted in our relationship there. And so that was just a beautiful little thing. Mary says, I don't have a power. Oh, no, I see a bear in the upper branches. He came down to me, um, to ask me to touch its fur. Elisa says, I don't have a power animal, but when I ask, I get that a tiny crystal held that function for me and still does. Lovely. I thank you, Elisa. I think that's really great. And it's kind of like the way that I love to connect with all of this and share is that there isn't a dogma associated with doing the shamanic work. There are teachings that we can practice, but once we begin to practice them, it expands us into our own world about who we are in connection with the earth and the universe and all of life and the invisible, and we find our own way with everything, and that's really the most amazing thing. Is like I have found that from doing this work with the trees that that I found out more of who I am, and some of that is not even who I knew that I was at all. And so it's just really wonderful to be able to share. Okay, I'm going to close that for now. And we are going to move on. I want to tell you a story of my connection with the banyan tree in Lahaina, Maui. I'm going to get my notes because there's quite a few things here. Okay, so about a year ago, I was sitting in my living room and I was doing this Qigong exercise called Big Tree. And I was working with my power animal tree. It's just a lovely exercise for, moving the energy in your body in connection with the tree. And it's just one of the, it was just, I'm doing my Qigong with Big Tree. And all of a sudden, the power animal tree came flying at me. The energy came flying at me and told me that the banyan tree in Lahaina, Maui has a message for you about healing the soul of humanity. And I'm like, wow, okay, what am I going to do with this? I was just kind of taken aback because it was just such a powerful message for me. And so I began my work with the Douglas fir power animal tree with my teacher to the banyan tree. So I journeyed to the banyan tree and there was a remote journey that I did with my teacher. And just so you know, I'm looking at my nose because there's just so much sort of juiciness with this story. I want to make sure that I receive it all. So I had been reading about the the devastation, how the banyan tree had been burned during the fire in Lahaina. And this is actually a picture of a tree, of the banyan tree in June this year. So I wanted to put this on because it's showing you that she's returned and has her beautiful green branches again. And that's just really wonderful. And so, there were so many people that rallied around trying to heal the tree, and they were taking water to the tree, and they were circling the tree, and they were trying to help the tree. There are just so many people tending it. So I did my middle world journey, and the tree told me, this banyan tree told me that fire creates as well as destroys. So I'm going to say that again. Fire creates as well as destroys. And what she told me is Earth wants humanity to survive. And, you know, I'd been connecting with the Earth recently, asking her about the changes, about climate change, about this transformation the Earth seems to be going into. Seems to be just happening, weather patterns, hurricanes, my goodness, all the fires, you know, local, we have fires very near us, actually. And the wisdom that I got from the earth is that earth is not suffering, earth is not dying, earth is adapting. And the banyan tree told me that humanity, it's humanity that's in the need of healing, and that it is the soul of humanity that is suffering. And I was told that humanity requires 7 soul retrievals to begin the process of healing. And below, I'm chronicling the soul retrievals. As I do them, I wrote them down. And just so you know, this is all in connection with the banyan tree and with my teacher. And when I do shamanic healing work, I want to be very clear about that, it's not me doing the healing. This is, in our shamanic practice that I've learned, I am a hollow bone. So I am working with my teachers to move energy, and it's the trees, it's my teachers that are doing the work, the spirit teachers. And so that's what I want to communicate to you about when I say that I did these soul retrievals. Okay, so I want to tell you about these. Just a little bit about the banyan tree, another story about the banyan tree, that I was looking on Facebook because there was a lot on Facebook during this time. And someone said on Facebook that the tree was in a tree coma. And I asked the tree about this, and she told me that there's no such thing, that it is what she's doing is restoring her aliveness. And I asked if it's okay to talk to her since it's in this process of restoration. And she said, I'm happy to help. It won't cause me stress to do it. It also told me that for humans to survive, we must change. And I'm sure that everyone's on this Zoom Sacred Exchanges with Trees class that I'm sure that you already know that. So I asked the banyan tree about grief in relation to the fires and all the upheaval on earth. And she told me that we can work with a theme of aliveness and transformation. And what I got from this is like this sense of grief, holding grief in one hand and possibility in the other. And so I invite you, like, because we have so much going on our earth, to just, imagine this teaching from the banyan tree that we have the grief of holding that in one hand, all the sadness, anger, rage that we're experiencing from what's happening. And we also, it's like both and we hold possibility so that it's really, we can really see how we can change and things can change. And so the first journey with my teacher directed me to the Mexican desert. And I was asked if there was a soul part of humanity. And I was shown a quartz crystal. I'm thinking of Elisa with her crystal. The soul part was separated when there was destruction of an ancient civilization. The quartz crystal returning to humanity is bringing back ancient wisdom of the culture that has been lost. I was instructed to breathe the soul part crystal into my heart and into my crown for 7 breaths. And as I do this, I am returning it to all of humanity. Okay. So we can just breathe that in. And so the second one, and just continue to pay attention to what you're feeling as I'm sharing this. As directed by the banyan tree, my teacher and I went to the top of a redwood tree. We climbed down. The soul part was a seed, a redwood seed. I breathe it into my heart and then my crown. Then I'm taken to a giant sequoia tree. The soul part was a leaf. I am healing. I was told that through me, I am healing and it is healing humanity. This soul part of humanity was separated during logging. Humans became less alive with less oxygen. I realized that not only can we help our planet and humanity by reducing fossil fuels, but also by planting trees. Okay, the next one. I journeyed to the banyan tree with my teacher on the redwood broom. She guided us on, and we arrived at a forest that at a point in my childhood was covered in old growth. And so I have to tell you this story that there was we would go to the beach from Aberdeen. There's about 20-minute drive to ocean shores and the different beaches, the ocean beaches. And there was this place where you'd come around this corner and there was this old growth forest. And like as a child, I couldn't wait till we were driving through that forest. I just felt so connected with the trees there. And as a teenager, maybe about 16 or 17, we're going to the beach and we go around the corner and it was clear cut. I'm just feeling pretty emotional about sharing that with you now. And I just, I didn't know what to do. I talked to my father about it and he said, they plant more trees. So, well, that didn't satisfy me, and I was done with communicating with him about it. So, I've carried that grief with me for all these years. So here I was with the banyan tree, and we went to this forest. And first, I was instructed to gather the souls of the departed trees in a basket, and to perform psychopomp. And psychopomp, for those of you don't know, is helping the spirits of beings to move fully into the other world after they passed on. Sometimes souls remain. Sometimes souls would like to remain, but sometimes, if there's been devastation, trauma, the souls will remain. And so I took these tree spirits up and scattered them in the forest in the upper realms, and they were like sparkling stars in the midst of the other tree ancestors. I returned to the forest and was guided to a large stump of an old growth tree. And there was a soul part of humanity there, was there? It was a mushroom growing out of the stump in a circle around the tree stump. I asked, is this a fairy ring? Yes, that the elemental soul of humanity was here. And so I held my arms around the stump and mushrooms and gathered the energy. Then I breathed it in as before. I felt so grateful that I could help heal the place that had been devastated in my youth and that I carried so much grief for over 50 years. I was also told that as the elemental soul, that this soul retrieval is helping to restore compassion and connection of humans to humanity. So, okay. Oh, a lot of emotion in that one. I journeyed on again on my broom with my teacher. We went to the countryside of France, and I was told that here there was a massacre so great that I could do, that before I could do soul retrieval, I needed to help with psychopomp. I was told that there were millions of soul healers who had been killed by those that didn't understand them. So I was given a willow basket and invited the souls to come who wish to go up and fully transition. And when I do psychopomp, there's this thing where some souls want to go up, some want to go down, some want to remain. So many sparkling lights came into the basket, and I journeyed up and flung the basket, and the souls flew out, and there was this mass welcoming of these souls all around. Then I returned, and I was told that now I was to gather the souls to go down. And I have a power animal who's a squirrel, and who assists me when I do my psychopomp going down. And I gathered the souls again by calling them into the basket. And I went down and again flung the souls to be welcomed by their kin. One being came to me, Hilda was her name, and she said she was my ancestor. She thanked me and also told me that after a time I could journey to connect with her. She also said that many of the souls will remain behind to prepare the world for what is to come. Then I returned to the little field in France. It was a place I am told was a gathering for healers, for those who knew the ways of earth and healing. There I found a stone, a type of crystal that I was told was not of this earth, but another place and time in our multiverses. It was imprinted with the wisdom about our future here on earth. And in the time of the healers, they knew such things existed. And it just needed to be discovered and restored to humanity. Okay. So then I returned once again to the Banyan Tree with my teacher. We were guided to Africa, and here I was told a man made a decision, and a man made a decision and did something that led to the enslavement of African people. And this one, I was feeling some fear about doing this work because I didn't want to. I think what I was feeling when I did this was I felt like I didn't want to be a white person thinking I knew what African people went through. by being enslaved. And so I just want to put that out there that I have such honor and feel so much connection with the people of Africa. And I actually, in my belief, that it's where we all came from. And so I like to think of it as Mother Africa. And so I feel very humble that in this. And so I was told instead of a soul retrieval, we would do soul healing. There was a hole in the soul of humanity that needed repair. And with my teacher, we worked to mend the soul. I was told that this would bring healing to all souls that were killed or injured because of slavery. And I received the message that it isn't so important to remember all the details of the healings, but that the healing was done. And one more journey to the Banyan Tree, and then we were directed, my teacher and I, to Africa again, to the Sahara Desert, where humans came into form. I guess I was directed to a body of water that looked like a pond. I was told that a soul part of humanity was in the pond. We drove down and down and down and found a little shell with pink iridescence on it. I breathed it into my heart and the top of the head, and it was very simple. We returned to the banyan tree. She told me that although the 7 soul retrievals were complete, that there is more work to do, and I can come and continue. She said she looked forward to meeting people that feel moved to do remote journeys to the banyan tree and to ask her how they can help. So I invite you to do that as well. And what I received from doing this work was I received this wave of compassion for humanity. Sometimes I can be pretty judgmental of humanity and how things are going and how people are acting. And it appears to have shifted about and working with, we can really help to heal the humanity. And I think that's the possibility that we hold, that humanity can heal and find ways to live, in relation to the earth, in relation to the plants and the trees. And right on my little PowerPoint keynote here, I journeyed to the banyan tree again a couple of days ago, and she told me that deep transformation is happening in our world on the invisible level, and that we humans can hold the space for this. And I'm just so grateful for this and for sharing this with you. So, once we get to the question and answer part, feel free to share, some of your feelings, some inspirations you have, some questions you have for me or from Air. And, I just feel like, we're gathered here together to, bring attention to the trees and this idea that we can hold space with the trees. And I wanted to end our little conversation here by talking to you about ways of helping the trees. And this is a picture of a Douglas fir tree near the apple tree and with stinging nettle under it. And one of the things that I invite people to do when I teach about connecting with the plants and the trees is to notice when you're studying a certain plant, you're studying a certain tree, to notice who lives around it. Who has the community? Not only am I community with these trees, but who else is in community with the trees? And this little place near my apple tree, or the Douglas fir trees, the this nettle that lives under the trees, the nettle beautifully, the nettle that's very far under the trees are actually bigger than the ones that are outside the trees. There's a lot of wild rose off just beyond the apple tree. There's some blackberry. There's an old wild pear tree that has told me you can call me wisdom tree. She's given me messages. There's some salmonberry. There's, some little weeds growing up. Just yesterday, I was sitting with my apprentices and there was this beautiful mushroom growing up in the stump of the trees we were sitting around as our table. So just all these beings living in community out there. And so what you can do, if like when I worked with these trees, doing the soul retrieval, doing the psychopomp with the trees that I had known from my childhood, and what I did was I was guided to do the psychopomp with them. And what I want to communicate with you is that you can ask the trees what you can do to help them. And if there's been a clear cut or there's been trees cut down, you can breathe with the land and ask for what healing is needed. If there's trees around that are still standing, sometimes when there's clear cut or a lot of trees cut, there'll be these trees and they're sort of leaned over. They didn't cut all the trees. They'll leave a couple of trees they don't consider valuable, like alder trees, which are quite amazing trees within themselves. And you can ask them for what help you can give them. And if you know there's going to be a tree cut down, you can tell the tree what's going to happen. You can ask them if there's some help you can give them or something you can do before the tree is cut down, and see what messages you get. And the main thing I want to communicate here is communicate directly with the trees, with the land. And I want to end this by sharing a story with you, because it's a story of how the trees communicated with me about how important it is for us to be doing this communication with them and finding and receiving wisdom from them. I was at a training, and I used to go to this training in Vermont, Fairfax, Vermont, and my teacher had a medicine wheel in her near her on her land, and she asked us to go out on medicine wheel and just sit in silence for 20 minutes, just sit there. And so I was out there, and it was very windy. In fact, it was kind of scary windy to me. And so I'm like, oh my goodness, I'm hoping I'm going to be okay out here with these trees. And all of a sudden, the trees started talking to me and communicating with me. And these were, I believe they were sugar maples, because she had a lot of sugar maples on her land. And I all of a sudden I had this idea. I just told them, I'm always asking trees for wisdom. Maybe I should just sit and connect with you sometime and not ask you for wisdom. And what the trees told me was, we need you to constantly be asking us for wisdom. Not that many people are doing this, and we need you to do this. We're here for this. And what I realized was that I was making myself small and thinking that I'm just being selfish by asking for wisdom. But really what we're doing is making that connection with the trees and with the land and everything. And we're expanding consciousness, not only for ourselves, but for everyone else. We're allowing more of that to be present. And I think Mayor had a couple of things you wanted to say, Mayor.
Yeah, and I don't know if you want to stop share screen right now or you have one more slide, but I can share with your PowerPoint up.
I'll just put that on there while you.
Okay, and that information will be in the replay, how to reach you. So yeah, I actually, before I get started, I would like to ask you a question. If you want to stop sharing, Julie, that'd be great, so we can see each other more clearly.
Yeah, I just wanted to share with people that this is my grandmother's cedar here.
Okay.
So yeah, and so I can stop.
Beautiful.
How do I do that? Okay.
You go to the top and where it says either unshare or stop share, it should be right along the top of your screen.
There we go. For some reason, okay. Doing that again, where it's not giving me the.
It should, when you go to the top of your, well, I'll just keep on going. It's all right.
Keep
We
on
can make
going
it
and
up.
I'll see if I can figure this out.
Yeah. But before I want to share anything, I wanted to ask you, Julie, if in a succinct way, I guess, what kind of responses have you heard from the trees, say in a clear cut, of what do they need? What would they like you to do? I think it would be interesting for people to hear that.
Mostly what I've been doing with the clear cut that I've witnessed recently is to just tell the trees that I'm here with them and just to be quiet. And that's, oh, here we go. See if I can, no.
Oh yeah, that was somebody in the chat box.
Okay. Oh, there we go.
Oh, perfect.
Okay.
You got it. Excellent.
There we go. Okay. Yeah, that's what I would say is, in my experience, like recently, because sometimes on Whidbey Island, we have pretty good practices here. We have a lot of environmental activists that do their best to try to stop clear cutting here on the island where I live. But mostly my experience with the trees recently is just holding space for them after they've been clear cut and telling them I'm here with them and just being silent with them and, and being in connection with them. And that's what I've experienced.
Okay. So it sounds like it's from your heart.
Yeah.
You're really being in your heart, holding space with them. Okay. Well, thank you for sharing that. So what I wanted to do is just share a little bit more and then and even speak to what Julie's been teaching me, because we've been having some conversations in advance of this class here. The first is that when it comes to actual physical things you can do, for instance, if there's going to be a construction site, is to train the construction crew if you can, if it's your lot, or maybe see if you can talk the developer into this, is to actually use an orange snow fence around the drip line of the trees so that the roots of the trees don't get impacted. It's really hard and harsh on the trees. So, the construction folks don't park under the trees or pile up materials or soil. And I'm saying this right now, and there's a lot right next to us that's just been built, and they have just wreaked havoc over the roots of those trees. And I've been praying and talking to the trees and saying, please, I hope you can make it. I'm sending you love. And then upon completion, it's important that the builders not regrade the soil over the base of the trees, thereby suffocating them. That's another thing, which is we shouldn't do. Developers need to learn this. And when it comes to mulching our trees, a lot of people like to mulch circles around their trees. is to not put more than 1 inch of mulch or soil around the trunk of the trees. More than that would be like putting a person's head in a plastic bag. Apparently, roots can't breathe under that fill. So just note for your landscaping projects. So I want to talk a little bit, just really briefly. In my trainings, I've learned a lot about nature spirits, or a little bit maybe. I could say there's always a universe more to learn. And that the more mature trees have dryads. That's dryads that live in the trees. They're a kind of nature spirit that specifically, they live in the trees, they live with the trees. They are co-creating the growth process with the, if I can word it that way, with the actual tree itself. And when a tree is cut, one of the things I was taught was to put like a fist-sized stone on the stump and invite the dryad to go into the stump, into that stone, give it a couple of days to go in, speak to the dryad, and then move the stone to another forested area where the dryad can find another tree to move into. Now, in conversations Julie and I have been having, what's really important is actually ask the tree, though. Ask the tree, and even if you can discern the difference between the tree and the dryad, ask the dryad what the dryad wants. We're talking about some higher level listening skills here, but sometimes it's just as simple, like, do you get a yes or a no response when you ask? And then another thing that a Shoshone elder had taught me was that when trees are cut and you have a stump there, that the trees are portals of energy. There's a lot of energy that has been moving through the tree when the tree was living, from the cosmos, the sunlight coming in, into the ground, and then back up. There's an ongoing communication process there, which gets into the multidimensional realms really quickly. And so when trees are cut, that energy is still flowing as a type of portal. And what the Shoshone elder taught me was that it's important to close them down. Now, again, you want to ask the tree, though, does the tree spirit want that closed down? And again, see if you can receive a yes or a no response if you can't hear that clearly. And if you do get a yes, the way to close it down is to put your hand over the stump and connect in with the consciousness of the tree, and then move your hand clockwise 4 times, and then move your hand down onto the stump itself and ask that the portal be closed. But the most important thing here in doing this is, what does the tree want? So ask the tree. And I want to go back for a second to a little story about a little dogwood that was cut down in a yard near my house where I was still living in Maryland. And I have an extraordinarily gifted nature spirit mystic friend who's Dutch. He and I talk really often. And so they had cut the tree, and I thought, well, okay, I'm going to go the next day, because I found out later that afternoon, it was late. I'll go the next morning and see if there's anything I can do about the dryad that was in the tree. And when I got there the next morning, the tree crew had already ground the stump. And I was really upset by that. And they do that a lot of times very fast, right after a tree is cut. And I asked my nature spirit mystic friend, Cornelis Jan Kuperis, what happened to the dryad. And he tuned in, and he actually saw a couple of gnomes taking the dryad who got really wounded away to be healed. So this is an example of how the nature spirits are helping each other, but we could have been more conscious. That tree company could have been more conscious. This is part of our awakening as humans, and honoring the sacredness of these beings and the fact that they're there along with the physical trees themselves and the spirits of the trees. So I don't know, Julie, if you want to share anything with that. I know that I'm coming from a slightly different angle with this, so please feel free to share.
Yeah, I just wanted to, add to what you're saying, Mayor, is that this practice that I've shared with you about breathing with the trees and asking is a really important, or it's a really wonderful way to connect. And, there's these things that Mare was sharing, and really doing the breath with the trees and the land it really helps you move into the invisible space because the trees, the plants, the trees are living in a more expanded consciousness than we are. they're not just in ordinary reality, they're in living in the invisible space. And with the breath, with your breath and intention, that's how you move into that. And it's very simple. And then you can experiment with doing some of these things that Mare was saying, or that I was saying in helping the trees. And I just really wanted to offer people a chance to ask questions if they wanted to, or share anything they were feeling, or anything more they want to share about their connection with the trees, if anyone's feeling moved.
Yeah, please. We're opening up now to Q&A, questions, sharings. And Diane had a question. Where do the animals fit into all you have told us?
Oh, that's such a good question. So my experience is, because my husband and I have goats, is that when I started watching the goats eat, they eat the grass, they eat the plants, and they turn it into milk. And so really the 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 goats transform the plants into take it in and transform it into milk. And so there's this there's it's like it's not a very I don't see like the animal kingdom, the plant kingdom. I see them as being very interconnected. And when I think about my garden and the microorganisms that live in the garden, and I think about the insects that live in my garden, and the bees, the pollinators that live in my garden, and all of the beautiful beings that live on our land, the wild beings. And so, when I was talking to you about the community of beings that live with our trees, then it would also be a coyote and raccoon and rabbit. We have a lot of rabbits here. We have mice and we have rats. We have little voles. We have squirrels. We have all the winged ones. We have ravens. We have osprey. We have eagles. We have hawks. We have robins, and so on and so on, and beautiful songbirds. So all of that weaves in. And by having this practice of being with the land and listening, I've 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 just learned that all beings are welcome here, even the mosquitoes. So I don't let people here kill mosquitoes, and we just have little ways to keep the mosquitoes from biting us. But even the mosquitoes are welcome here. And speaking of mosquitoes, we have lots of bats, and the bats eat many mosquitoes. So all the animals are totally woven in to the to everything.
So Karen's asking the question, is there anything children can do to help trees? Are they closer in some ways to tree spirits?
Oh, I think totally they're closer. And I have worked with classes with children in the past, and I found like the shamanic listening practices that I teach, the children just pick up on them right away, and they really understand. I've had children come to work with me and tell me, there's fairies under that tree. Did you know that? And so with the trees, I would just say, if the children could do the breath with the trees and ask, there's a question that it's a beginning question that I have my students and apprentices ask of the plants. And the question is, what have you for me? So if you were breathing with a tree, you could ask, what have you for me? And I did a exercise with children maybe about 4 years ago, and we were having some discussions about the earth. And so I had them all go out and sit on the earth and ask the earth, what can I do to help you? And the messages were so amazing. And one of the messages that came back is laugh more. So I just love the idea of children being with the trees and with the earth.
Love it. I love it. That's something I hear from the nature spirits around where I live is you humans are too serious. You need to be far more silly and have fun more.
I
Um,
just,
so
I agree with that.
yeah. So Nelike, I hope I'm saying your name right, wrote a little bit of a note here. May I recommend Hugo Herbe's Harmonizing Preparation? This biodynamic preparation is simple, everyday ingredients can be easily made. Small book with Hugo's life story. So if people want to grab this information, you can copy and paste this right now from Nelike. You can also capture the whole chat by going to the little three little dots on the upper right corner of the chat box and just click on save chat and that will save to your computer. You probably have a Zoom file there or maybe to your desktop. Thank you, Lovey. Happy Indigenous Peoples Day tomorrow here in the United States, at least. Any other questions? Otherwise,
Yeah,
we will wrap this up.
I wanted to
Please.
say something about the Indigenous Peoples Day because, um, I was talking to a friend of mine who's a social worker, uh, um, and she works with the Colville Tribal Nation, which is in Eastern Washington, where I live. And she told me that the Colville Tribal Nation, they are doing this ancient indigenous practices with in connection with the forests, and they have been able to work with the fires in a different way so the fires have not devastated the lands there. I just want to put that out there that, Indigenous Peoples Day is a recognition of the old ways, the ways of being with earth and really important.
Yes, thank you for mentioning that, Julie. I know the same thing is happening in Australia. They're really turning to the Aboriginal people about how they have worked with the land for thousands of years. It's really important that we bring this wisdom back. It's so necessary. So any other questions? Any last minute thoughts?
Well, Elisa has a question. Do you want to unmute, Elisa?
I already did. Thank you. And basically, I'm
Good.
just saying thank you. I'm going to get to present next week, so you'll, get to hear plenty from me. But there were a few things that you said that, so I feel like we could talk for hours and hours and hours and hours because you're doing what I would call light work on the planet and some very different, but with the same love and intention that I've been doing for so many years. That there were a couple of things you said. One was both of you were talking about the fun part, and that's something I've gotten from so many trees and from spirit and from boulders and a star, that this is all about fun. And a couple of trees have told me that when we are joyful, there are little beings that come out of the ground to heal the etheric web of the earth. And they won't come out if we're not joyful. So it means that we have to do the processing necessary to heal and clear the negativity that can come up when we see the devastation or when we judge what's going on. The other thing that was pretty specific was you being taken to France, because when I was on tour, one of the first workshops I gave was in the forest of Fontainebleau in France. And I had seen photos of artwork done about this place, but the fact was it was devastated. It was just torn up, logged. We found one large old tree we could work with. And that tree asked us, and this was a new group who had never done this kind of work, asked us to help release the stuck souls because there had been so much, atrocity and dishonesty and things that had gone on there. And there were like several hundred stuck souls that got released at that time. And you could feel the difference there. And another time I was referred back again to Notre Dame, which is, as you may know, had lost but much of its roof. They took down a lot of old growth forest to rebuild it. When I was there, I was taken up the back of the cathedral and the energy was so evil, was so horrible. And then I heard, and it's the only time I've actually heard like a loud voice, and it was really Christ saying to me, "Don't worry, I'm already working here." And so we did a lot of work, just asking the clearing inside the church, and it was almost like seeing it like coming out, and everything switched over. So I feel connected to that I've been brought. I don't feel a big personal karmic connection. Maybe I have more than I know to France, but I was just really struck by the fact that you brought up France, and I could say things about Africa as well. We've all had lifetimes there, obviously. So I just want to thank you, your energy, Julie. I mean, I love Mare, of course, already, and though we've known each other only a short time, but Julie, your energy is so sweet, gentle, loving, welcoming, accepting, and I love your curiosity and being willing to do what shows up, and without judgment, just accept it, do it, do the work, and move on. And I just want to honor that.
Yeah, thank
Honor
you.
you. And I hope maybe someday we'll just talk for a few hours or something.
Yeah. That's great.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, bless you,
Um,
and everyone on this call. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you, everyone. I look forward to connecting. If anyone wants to, I think you'll get my contact info. If you want to share
Yeah.
more or be connected with me, I'm grateful for that. I just really grateful for you, Mayor, for organizing this, and I'm so grateful that the fundraiser for North Carolina was able to happen too. I just really,
Yeah, it was amazing how people just started donating, and it just meant that so many more people are going to be part of this webinar. It was really exciting. So, real quickly, Groisha has her hand raised. I know we're going a few minutes over, but Groisha, do you want to share something?
Yes, if I could. Hello, everyone. Nice to see you. I was here last time too with Jim and Basha, and I just came into the end, so I look forward to the replay. I wanted to speak about my relationship to trees, because what you're doing, I'm one of those visionary types of trees, and I've been seeing what you're doing, so I'm so excited. And for myself as a person, the tree saved my life. I became really depressed, and if it weren't for the trees starting to communicate with me and teaching me about how to move energy through me and the interconnection of everything, it changed the whole foundation of my life. So I'm really excited to hear how the deeper dives that you've all taken help enhance that. I take so much of what Jim and Basha bring to us, and I bring it to families. I'm a therapist, because we have to also grow from the inside out, the same way they were talking about growing from the inside out. So the synchronicity of life just excites me. And I wasn't here in the beginning because I went and found this sit spot by these pine trees, because I want to find a spot for November 2nd. So I'm excited to hear the songs they sing, because for me, they gave me songs. So I wrote songs from the trees, and that's what keeps me feeling like I'm singing to them and they're singing to me. So I'm just grateful that so many, and I'm touched by how it's older people like our generation, right? Because we were the ones who were playing outside, and there's no shame to what's now, but there's an interconnection that was just part of our foundation. Like I'll never forget.
Thank you.
yeah, thank you. I agree that, all those, my mother would just say to my friend and I, we were 5 years old, go to the park, play, come back for lunch. I mean, traipsing around in the big old cedars. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Key
exactly.
experiences. Thank you, Groisha. Well, we should wrap it up. Please register, Groisha, so we'll put you on the map, unless you have already done that. And
You mean for the November 2nd?
yeah, for the November 2nd.
Okay,
Yeah.
I registered for this whole thing. I thought that registered me, but if I'm in Utah.
No, it's separate.
Okay.
Yeah, it's separate, but you just go to the website that's in the replay email for the 1,000 Goddess Gathering Global Tree Love Day. And somebody asked a question, how do you spell dryads? D-R-Y-A-D-S. Yes, that's right. That's dryads. You can look it up. All right. Thank you, Julie. Oh my gosh, this has been really, really, really special. And Elisa, I love that you spoke at the end. People got a sense of you. We'll be with Elisa next weekend. I'm so looking forward to this. And may everybody have a beautiful, peaceful joy-filled week, if possible, in the midst of all these changes we're going through, and spend some time breathing with the trees. Yes. And connecting more with your power animal. Yeah. All right. Thank you, everybody. Love and hugs.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.